Welcome to the SJ Child Show. Thank you for all your continued support. You can find us at sjchilds.org. Enjoy the show. Hi, welcome to the SJ Child Show. I'm so excited to start this conversation. In fact, we didn't even chat ahead of time because there's too many nuggets that are going to be spoken. So without further ado, as Laura would say, who brought us together. So I have to give her a little credit. Laura Hale's just amazing. Betsy, thank you so much for being here today. I'm honored. I'm excited. I can't wait to just get into all the good stuff.
I'm really excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. And, we've just recently met in the last month, basically, and been able to just, have a tiny glance into what your journey looks like. Let's start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself before you were a mom. And then let's get into that next journey.
Oh, before I was a mom. No, I didn't have any identity back then.
Right?
No, everything I am happened because of all that happened to me. Like it's why I have a love-hate relationship with my son's situation, because it's been a tremendous struggle for 30 years, but it's all who I am, and it's all that I became. And how can you be angry at something that made you become more? So really, really, really brief, because you don't need to hear every detail because there's a lot of them. I divorced I had 3 children. Joey is a twin. He was diagnosed at 2, extremely severe, the severest of the severe, and divorced my husband really shortly after. And so it was just a lot of tough years. But you have to know that 30 years ago, so he was diagnosed at 2. There was no Googling things. There was no internet, was barely beginning. We had a couple listservs back then, but there wasn't much of anything other than books. And books were typically outdated by the time they were published, because information was like, what's going on, what's happening, why are the increases? Like, there was so much kind of happening. And it was a real maverick time for us, pioneer moms who were just looking for answers, and dads too. But the majority of, who have the time to be able to look into it more were the moms, and the dedication, because you get that mama bear instinct. Yeah. And we would form support groups, and that's what it was. It was like a bunch of gathering of us, once a month in a support group, trying to share stories. So that being said, flash forward a little bit, I met a pediatrician who was also like, what's going on with autism? He left his practice and started a autism-based practice, much more naturally, much more holistically. He and I were inseparable, got married, and had a phenomenal 16 years together. We ran an autism clinic I ran his clinic for 16 years. Sadly, 7, oh my gosh, is it 7 years this year? This coming up year, so 6.5 years ago, he passed away. And Joey, who is now 29, but we were kind of on our own, and the next great love of my life came into my life, and we moved up to Bellingham, Washington, and that's where we are now with my son Joey.
Oh, I'm so proud of you, first off, because going through that alone, finding your own ways, forging your own paths, like you said, pioneering in all of the ways, not only in, with autism, but sounds like restarting your life, and Definitely. The courage that it takes. So,
it's a lot of people say, oh, I just, really thanks to the pioneer moms out there, and the ones that like really charged through and got services and explored situations. I actually feel in some ways it was easier than what moms are dealing with now, which is too much information.
Yes.
Moms and dads are given so much information from so many people that is almost more difficult than taking one subject at a time and doing your best with it and then moving on to the next.
Isn't that the truth?
So it's something that overwhelmment becomes a real issue, because we are doing the best we can. People say, oh, don't take it personally if your child's screaming. Okay, so if my child's screaming, who's responsible other than me?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, it's a nice thing to say, and it's true, because it's not that we're doing the best we can, but you really have to hold back from that. I'm going into uncharted territory for them, and I don't know what's necessarily best for them. And, Laura, your situation, I mean, excuse me, I just called you Laura.
Oh, Laura, Sarah, it's so close. No worries.
So Sarah, your situation is very, very different than mine.
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit just a tad before we started about finding that kind of friend group. It's so important because autism presents itself in this multifaceted amount of ways. I mean, it's all different types. And one of my best friends in the entire world, we've been friends for decades, and her daughter is speaking and went to college, and a very, very different situation than mine, who is non-speaking, who bangs his head on a daily basis, who screams, who's unpredictable in so many different ways. And we love each other because you cannot, you can't identify with that. She can't identify with me. I can't identify with her. But we respect enough to know each other. You're finding your challenges in your ways, and I have my challenges in my ways. So friends like that are fabulous. But honestly, finding a friend who is sharing your similar symptoms is going to bring you more comfort, because of the fact that I look at her life, and her big problems are her daughter having social issues. And it's like, yeah, but you weren't up all night with a child who put their head through the wall.
Yeah.
So you get a little testy with that, like, don't tell me about your problems when I have a child with blood all over their forehead this morning.
Exactly.
And so we have to be loving and respectful of what everyone's journey is.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, I have this large TikTok account, and I'm big with social media. And with that comes a lot of people saying, they fight back and forth, not so much with me. I have a real loving relationship with my followers, but there's a lot of fighting in the autism world.
Yes.
And we have brought in autism way beyond where it needs to be brought in. We need to start defining the individualities
Agreed.
of the types better, so that we can form these support groups in a better way.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. 100%, because I can't, just like you're saying, maintain good experiences, plan successful strategies if I'm just out in the dark, going, like you said, out on the water without a paddle. I'm just floating about. If I can't find a supporting community, and to be honest, I really don't have anybody that's in my same, just, academic kind of experience that I've been through with my son.
Right.
Luckily, like you said, my daughter is also diagnosed, and she fits more of that exact person you were talking about before. She's very social. Her problems are more socially. So I can find a little bit more help and a little bit more advice. But what do? I was just speaking to an attorney earlier. I was interviewing him, not for any other purposes, but and we were discussing that importance of the whole person, seeing that whole person, seeing the needs of that whole individual person, making it more defined by that individuality, rather than here's this word, but everybody can look different, everybody can act different, everybody can receive different, support systems. It definitely needs to be better defined.
And at the very least, just so that we can help each other, because what's happening now is there's too much anger that you don't understand me.
Mm-hmm.
And like, sometimes I'll get a comment, it's rare that I get a negative comment on my TikTok page, but occasionally it's from an autistic individual, and she'll say, I have autism, and so I know, and that's not right. And it's like, oh, sweet girl.
Yeah.
That's like me saying, I'm a woman, so I know what's best for you because you're also a woman, and that's not what you're doing is not right. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And we have to be really in touch with our gut and drive forward, because I know so many of, so many different modalities, and we have to be able to find what we tap into, and understand that we're all part of this journey. And to not to necessarily bring in a huge spiritual side, but our own individual journeys are why we're here.
Yeah.
So what I'm experiencing is helping me become more. What you're experiencing is helping
love it.
more. And we're supposed to be different.
Yeah.
If we were all going through the same thing, doing the same stuff, we wouldn't be becoming more. And we're making this world bigger and better because we're all expanding thought where it's never gone before.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? This is why we were brought together, because the vibe, right? And it's just all about the energy you're putting out into the world. And as much as we can, even if we can't verbally or visually teach our children those types of behaviors or habits, we can practice them. And we can practice them, and then they want to practice them. We can show them by the best example we can. Right. And that's so interesting too. That we're so very different. And my husband, has this relationship with our daughter. They're like two peas in a pod. So he understands her. He gets her sarcasm and her dry sense of humor, all the things that I am like, this sweet, sensitive, so different than them. But it's so wonderful that he can kind of help me, support me to understand her, and to cut through the, rather she's cutting like a knife and I'm, trying to wade through that as best as I can. But to be able to see it and give understanding, grace, try to step back, not be judgmental, as they're in their own processes of individuality. And they're, like you said, are going to be themselves. Yeah. And the more we can accept and protect and support that is right. For us all.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Because you don't want to push too hard with any child. You have other children, so you don't want to control so much that you push them. And I have an older stepdaughter, and we that was my parenting style was a lot different than it is now, and I now see the consequences of relationships that it's a little bit harder. And
we're not here to create mini-me's. We're not here. Yes. We're not here to, I'm switching from cold to hot.
I love it.
We're here to help them become the most that they are here and meant to be. And it is for so many people hard to look into my life and to see my son and the struggles that he has and think, what is the good in this? What is he bringing to this world? Well, the craziness is how we've been able to bring awareness in a way that a lot of people have not been able to. And so I started my TikTok page 2 years ago, never, ever expected it would be what it is today. And I have about 70, it's nothing gigantic. It's like 75,000.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
And what it is meant to be more than anything. And this is, and I think this is exactly why I was given a child like Joey, because otherwise people would think, oh, well, you just have it easy. Joey is not easy. There's nothing easy about it. I make it look easy on TikTok, but I make sure and tell people it is not this easy. Okay. Yeah. I am not going to do a video of my son having a breakdown and putting it up on social media. So they're only going to see the good side.
Absolutely.
But the point of it is to get out and integrated in our society, no matter what level your child is operating at. And this is the big goal of Autism Odyssey, which is my 501c3, which is about getting out there and integration. And part of the challenges that moms like us face when their child is nonverbal, when they are sporadic and they do things very scarily that concern others, is the fact that the way that we're received in society. There's a very different feeling between somebody being quirky and how they're received from society versus somebody who they think is a drug addict about ready to go crazy on meth and they'll blow them up. Like, it's a different vibe. And my son does things very sporadically, and he will, drop to the floor on a hat and just like start banging his head, or, he intimidates others, and that's real. And I don't get mad at others for being afraid of that behavior, because that is innately in us. We're supposed to. I had a friend of mine attacked by a drug person in San Jose that was heavily methed out and attacked her on the streets. So it's okay to be afraid, but we have to communicate to others that this is not someone we need to be afraid of, which is why I started the Be Kind vest, which simply says autistic be kind. And people have said, could you add more words? It's like, no, you can't add more words. Because if he's on a bike and it says, I am a non-speaking individual, it's like we need to get the message and get it out fast. It simply says autistic be kind. And we're just about sold out. We are, I'm working right now. We have a big shipment. We're going to get different sizes this time because we're out of one size fits all. So we're going to be getting more in soon. And I'm going to be opening it up for pre-sale soon at Autism Odyssey. But that was a big step for me, because I received so much criticism about labeling at the beginning. And it's not till you've been and walked into somebody like mine's shoes until you really understand what it's like to be apologizing 24/7 every time you're out in public. Oh, I'm sorry, he's autistic. I'm sorry, he didn't mean to do that. He's autistic. Oh no, don't worry, he's autistic. And it was over and over and again. And that can't be good for him either. Like, to have to
agreed.
I'm sorry. He loves his vest. He puts it on every day. He loves to convey to others, hey, give me a break. Just give me a break. And so when I was first put it out there on TikTok that this is our world, and my son wears this vest that says autistic be kind, there was a lot of hate. But I worked through it with a few videos explaining what us parents have to go through when you have a non-speaking individual.
100%. I mean, literally, we're on the ssame exact wavelength. I mean, my husband and I literally have a business plan that has these vests that say the same thing. I mean, we've been psychically communicating for many years, Betsy. But it's so interesting. I even wrote a children's book, a few of them, and one of them I say I inverted stories, because for us it was Halloween and trick-or-treating. For us, it was every time we'd go to the door, he'd want to run in the house, he'd want to pet the dog, he'd want to ask them, about their car and what age they were, but they were angry because he wouldn't take the candy. And it was so hard. And I mean, trick-or-treating is once a year, but it's not that it doesn't happen all the time. But to be able to then have the experience where he's coming in to say hello. You want to say hi to my friend Betsy?
Hi, nice to meet you.
She said it's nice to meet you. Why don't you tell her what you are working on?
Are you working on me?
Okay, we won't be working on you. Bye. Cutie. So Halloween. So I had 1 year decided, okay, I'm going to he was Garfield that year, and I put a sticker, same thing, autistic, please be kind. It was incredible, the amount of patience and They saw the sticker right away. They didn't overreact
Yeah.
to his questions. I wasn't apologizing.
Yeah.
I think we went through for years, my husband saying, don't apologize for us. I don't like it. Like we're not going to be apologized for, kind of, and
Yeah.
bless his heart. And it's so hard on every single member of the family, his sisters who have to
Yeah.
stand in the background and they're shuddering. And it's so important that we are, like, kind of like Laura's doing, normalizing that these are human behaviors, and these type of human behaviors might not be what your life looks like, but it looks like this for so many others. And the better our community can be with the best information out there, right? Not too much information out there, which there is, but it's so incredible. So yeah, I do agree. So I wrote the book that says, when you go to see Santa, put a little label on that says, autistic, please be patient. And it's just the same thing. I mean, I know a lot of people, labels are horrible. No, they're there to inspire hope and encourage and educate. And if you look at them positively, you can see that.
Well, it's no different than look at handicap spaces.
100%.
A handicap sticker is a label.
Yeah.
But it's like, please give me special considerations because certain things are harder for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we have to understand it. And we really need to be patient with people. And you have to understand too. So I lived in San Francisco, and
my heart's favorite city.
Oh yeah. I was born nearby, but I lived in San Francisco before moving up here to Bellingham, which is this beautiful little sweet, kind community. Yeah. Everybody kind of knows each other. So it's very different here. But I go to Vancouver, Canada all the time because I'm right by the border of Canada. And big cities tend to have a lot of ethnicity attached to it, which is the biggest reason I go, because I love the spice of life. I love the differences in ethnicities. But a lot of cultures have been raised very, very differently with the stigma of having somebody that's neurologically different. And we need to be patient with those cultures too, because they may be coming from countries where they've never seen this before, because those people are locked up in their country or never allowed outside.
So true.
And so what we want to, we need to be patient with all different types of individuals and people, because the older crowd is still very confused about it too. I mean, they didn't grow up with, the seniors today didn't grow up with the autism the way it is. And now so many of them have a grandchild or something like that.
Yes.
But once again, it's that stigmatism of, I know that one person with autism, so all people with autism must be like that one person, when it has nothing like that. It's not telling us anything. Yeah. So we need to get out. What we do in my TikTok page is to get out and in doing things and showing people it's okay. Do people stare? Absolutely. All the time. Do people give me weird looks? Do I get people that cross the street just because they don't want to run into us? All the time. But yeah, we need to I don't want to say put up a harder shell. We need to not care about the shell.
Exactly.
We need to not care about the looks. And this, my friend Sarah, is something that you don't have to tell me how old you are. But a friend of mine once called it the gift of 40.
Is that 46? I'll tell you. I don't care. Okay.
It's like for women, once they hit 40, they start giving a less and less
exactly.
and less.
Exactly.
And I'm getting closer to 60 now all the time. And when I can tell you it gets better every year. Like, I can care less at what anybody thinks year after year. Where my daughters get horrified.
Yeah.
My daughters are like, they're staring at us. They're looking, doesn't that bother you? Joey's blocking the way or whatever. It's like, I don't care if Joey's blocking the way. They can go around. Like, why is it that we have to, roll out the red carpet for everybody but ourselves?
Mm-hmm. Accommodate others.
Be selfish. to those caregivers out there, you need to be selfish. You need to not care what people think. You need to take care of yourself and your child first and not worry about what anyone else thinks, because what anyone else thinks is none of your business. And there's nothing that you're going to do to change it. And you cannot accommodate them enough to make them all happy. So focus on you and your child and let the rest of the world come into your world rather than you trying to always adapt to theirs.
Absolutely. My husband likens that to the windshield theory. He often says, sometimes I find you looking through other people's windshields and you're much more worried about what they're looking at and what they're going to run into than what your windshield looks like right in front of you. And I need you to focus and stay there. So I love that. He's the analogy king. And so I love, it's a great way to look at that.
Good. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. The same like you, he has this already. I don't know if it's because he's a Leo. I don't know, just he already has this like tough, like I don't stare and I don't care what people think. And my daughter has that with him too. And oh man, what I wouldn't give. And DJ, bless his heart, has that innately. I don't think he's maybe like Joey doesn't really, it doesn't bother him. The people like it.
It's why these children are gifts to us to help us learn to model what they're doing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Exactly. And like you said, we are vastly different, yet our circumstances, can be likened and supported so that we can help each other on these journeys to not, if anything, say, I see you and I respect and honor you. And I, see that it's, following in your footsteps 20 years, my son's a lot younger, but it's going to be scary when we transition into adulthood. And there's, like I had said before,
generally scary. I mean, there's so much, when I grew up and when my parents grew up and, parenting back then, we knew what was in the newspaper. We knew what was happening based on what was in the newspaper, maybe the radio, but that was the end of it.
Yeah.
And we now know too much. Yeah. We know too many problems. We know too many people suffering. The media, of course, focuses on suffering before celebration.
Yeah.
And so we're expected to kind of like hold all this empathy for all these different situations. And it just becomes so overwhelming that we're all anxiety ridden. And what I love to help people understand is that find your hill. Okay. Now for me, nutrition is a hill for me. Like I was raised, I've taught nutrition. I've written books. I have my Picky Eating Solutions course. Nutrition and healthy eating to get others to eat is a hill for me. More holistic living, another bit of a hill for me. Freedom and inclusion, another big hill. And then those are my hills, and that's what I focus on. And like we were talking about earlier, so Laura Hales, who's such an amazing person and who I adore and love, I get to see her this week. We're so excited. We're gonna have breakfast.
Please hug her for me. Hug her extra tight.
We're excited. We're gonna have breakfast and we're gonna go for a walk, and we don't have any children.
I wish I could be there. Could you Zoom me or something?
So Laura's hill is IEP and services and helping, this other parenting stuff. Very different hills. Okay. So this is where the beauty is that I don't watch all of Laura's TikToks. She probably doesn't watch all of mine because we're on different hills and we don't have to know everything about everything that everybody is saying.
Exactly.
So just focus on the things that you need to know right now and lovingly bless and send it off and say, that's not something I have to step into right now. So I'm just going to let that go. Like, I care about Ukraine. I know enough to know that I care and my heart is there. But my world is so powerfully with autism right now that I can't necessarily go there right now. I can't become an expert. I can't develop great opinions. So I bless it. I like to know some of the highlights, but then I have to continue on. Plus, I don't trust media for so I mean, So I don't always believe what even if it is my hill, I don't believe always what I'm hearing. So
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, I love you. This is why we're great minds. The great minds think alike thing. No, it is so true. And you have to just be so careful. That's why I love that both my husband and I are so analytical, and we will research on to no end to something to find out every source of it and every part of it, just to, because you can't rely on just one piece of information
Oh,
from one source.
Especially if you're doing things like Facebooks and Googles, and if you don't think that there's filtrations on any of those things for stuff that you don't, it's these are SEOs are so driven by money that the information that's getting out to you is who has the biggest pocket.
Is that true?
So we have to, even in looking and help for our children, it really, really frustrates me how overlooked nutrition and just basic general health is constantly overlooked, as if it's inconsequential, because it doesn't, broccoli doesn't have a drug rep. Okay. Amino acids doesn't have or good fatty acids, omega-3s don't have somebody who's, there's studies. They're not saying that there's not studies, but those studies don't get to you in the same way when you've got, $1 billion industry behind you. So if there's not a patent on it and money can't be made on it, we have to remember that are we being recommended something because it's really good for our child, or because there's a lot of money to be made on it?
Exactly.
And there, nobody can doubt that what was put on this earth to nurture and feed us would not be a good route for anybody, not just somebody with a chronic condition, but for anybody. And our brains, our gut brain connection, and the clarity of which this all comes from has to be brought back to what is going in. Because if we're putting toxin in after toxin after toxin, and we're expecting clarity and cooperation, it's not going to happen. And you can numb it with some medication, but if you don't put in good and you're just expecting the body to filter out all this crud, it's just going to make the gut brain connection even more wobbly and more disconnected.
I love that you said that too, because early on, I recognized right away that I needed to research gluten and dairy for my children because they were adversely affected in many ways. And I was like, why? What's happening? What's the cause behind this? And I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher. I am just someone who's had great experience in research being a paralegal before. So I guess that's where my good stuff come from. But when I realized that both gluten and the casein were proteins, and those proteins were causing other proteins in my children's bodies to react and wreak havoc for them, and the removal of those, that's really what it was, is that experience and seeing that anecdotal story of saying, we started here, we did this, it changed everything. Now we know, we wouldn't go back and change, do it differently if we had to. Right. Was it easy? No. Was there great recipes and wonderful foods that were gluten-free 10 years ago? No. It was horrible. 30 years ago. Exactly. I am just still so freshly new on my journey compared to where you're at. And it's so indicative that we, like you said, number one, tell people so that they have the information and say there's real successes that can be found. What do you tell the people that are just say, well, my kid just won't eat that? What do we want me to starve them?
Well, it's good. I love that you asked that question, because it's real. And actually, if somebody comes to me, because I've worked as a diet counselor for 30 years, if somebody, or I should say 25 years, comes to me and says, my child pretty much eats everything, but how, what should I feed them? And I'm like, okay, for one thing, if your child is eating everything already, they don't have they don't have a problem necessarily with addiction towards certain foods.
Mm-hmm.
And food addiction is very, very real. And you have to look at it as addiction as opposed to they're just picky. So I have specialized in picky eating for over 25 years. I wrote a book on it. I now have an online class on the topic of picky eating. So you can just go and listen to, I have hours and hours worth of content, but you can choose the videos that are specific to your situation. So you don't have to listen to hours and hours, but you can choose the videos for you. And if somebody says to me, oh, my child's a pretty good eater, I'm like, well, then they don't need me. You don't need me. Because of the fact that addiction is not going to breed variety, but there are more than just the gluten and dairy. Gluten and dairy are definitely a big piece of autism. And I teach people other than those with individuals that are autistic. But sugar is the big one. It is, and flavor enhancers, big addictions. It's kind of amazing when you start seeing how many chemicals are put into foods to make it trick the brain, and that it needs to be what it is.
Yes.
So there's this is the thing. People are looking for that recipe, or they're wanting the muffins where they just have to grate in some zucchini and then feel better about that little tablespoon of zucchini that they maybe have gotten in that whole thing of muffins.
Right.
And it's like that's what people are looking for, but we're not. It doesn't work that way. If you think of somebody who's addicted to anything, a drug, alcohol, whatever it might be, you have to pull it out before you're going to get them over the addiction. And you can't expect a child who's been eating Cheetos all day to be willing to eat broccoli at night.
Yeah.
And it has so much to do. It's not just about techniques. It is a biochemical, biomedical response to what's going in and what is addicting the neurotransmitter and all the way that it all demonstrates itself.
Does that affect the textures too? Sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Texture is the biggest, without a doubt. But the texture is a fear response to something that they're extremely unsure of. And I tell the story when I teach classes is of what if somebody wanted you to eat a worm? Is it so much the flavor that you're afraid of? Or is it the texture?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the texture.
Yeah.
So I really spend some time explaining to people why it's the texture. What is the texture fearful of? And when you can kind of understand that world and what they're going through, you can see why no matter what you're trying to do, they're not eating. So then it goes into a play of if when people say, well, my child will starve, and I say, well, when these foods when the goldfish crackers and the macaroni and cheese, those things weren't around over 100 years ago. Would any of those children have starved because those other foods hadn't been invented yet? And it's not. It's a matter of what they're used to. So number one, of course, for the younger families, don't ever start it. But number two, it's you have to pull away, because I've talked to people who have spent tens of thousands of dollars of feeding clinics.
Yeah.
And all they're trying to do is get this texture plays into it, but they're not removing the food that's so addictive that is keeping them from having something else.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Guilty. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta think back and make a list later of what I need to do here.
And that's okay, but I like the way that you kind of like segued into the fact that it's a list that you can check off one at a time. You don't have to do everything at once.
So smart.
If you take it in bits and pieces, a little bit easier. And what are we afraid of? We're afraid of them, of the tantrum. We're afraid of the meltdown. You're starving me. We're afraid of the backlash that we're going to get. But if you can keep your ultimate goal into the back of your head is, I love you so much that we're going to do this because I want the best for your body. And if you keep it as a reward rather than I'm doing this because you're so hard and difficult to take care of, I have to do this. That is not our motive. Our doing this is because I want to support that beautiful body of yours and I want to do for it the best that I can. But there's only so much you can bite off at the same time.
100%.
I love caregivers more than any people on the planet. I want to hold all of their hands. I want to walk through it all with them, but not one single one has ever said to me, it wasn't worth it. Not one has said to me, well, we got, maybe it was the gluten or the dairy, or we took the sugar away, or that we took the chemical, like the MSG, the McDonald's chicken away. And they always say to me, and then we saw the improvement. The problem is when you only do one thing and you don't get the improvement because there's still something else. Now, Sid Baker was a great speaker in the past with autism. He was one of our original pioneered speakers on autism. And he would say, something to the effect of, if you have two tacks at the bottom of your foot and you remove one tack and you're expecting them to be completely better, then you're going to be really disappointed because there's a lot of there could be a lot of tax in there. And so just because you've taken out gluten or dairy doesn't mean that you've taken out all the tax.
No.
So it's a matter of unfolding each one of those situations at a time and going with inspired guidance on that.
Oh gosh, we're going to be talking a little bit more after this. I can tell you, I'm going to need some help here, Betsy. No,
okay, you got it.
It's so interesting, isn't it? And with all of our family being on the spectrum, I think what has happened with us is we've given too much consideration. If yes, husband has these texture issues for this and this and this and this. So we wouldn't even ever expect this one to even, because he's shown us once or twice that he doesn't like it. We would never try again. We would never offer him a meat.
Yeah.
Like the boy saw a noodle on the floor a couple weeks ago and gagged at the sight of a noodle. And it's so hard, at the first week, I'll kind of just giggled at like how cute he is. And he's just so honest and innocent and literal in his responses to everything. And so, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, that's so hard. Like that, I don't know what's happening in that moment for him psychologically, that he is because he's never been forced food or, nothing, like he's never even had a noodle. Where's this coming from? Like, where does he have this idea that it's something that would just gross him out completely?
Because it's something that would have this extreme unexpectation of feel. And when I was talking to you earlier about somebody giving you a worm,
yeah,
because I tell this story in my class, so imagine you're brought somewhere in Asia where worms were a part of the society and the celebration of food. And it was something that you started off with at the beginning of a meal, and you're invited to this incredible buffet of food, and they have this ceremonial worm that everyone's expected to have at the beginning. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind. They have it every single day. So like you just said, it's just a noodle. Well, to us, it's like, wow, that's a worm. And to them, it's like, that's a worm. We have it every day. Like, what are you talking about? And so it's our own relationship with it and the familiarity of what our expectations going to be. And then of course we go into the play of, well, what would get you to try that worm? Well, if I could dip it in something, maybe I'd feel better. If it was pureed into something, maybe I'd feel better.
Yeah.
If the ratio of it was extremely tiny and I got to put it on top of something that was really, really great, like a whole pizza, and to have a tiny little piece of broccoli like on it, like those are the kinds of things that help desensitize us to what we're so afraid of.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic advice and education. Just more than I could have even hoped for, go down that path. So what a great way to segue. Oh, I love it. tell us about where we can find you, where we can follow and do all of those things. And please promise me we can have you back on the show
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Lots to talk about. So the Autism Odyssey is my website, odyssey.org. We're trying to build it up into something more right now. We're a little sneak peek. We have not put it up on the website yet, but we are establishing a line throughout the world of respite homes that we are putting together so that parents can get breaks.
That's
So
incredible.
there's a lot being done for group home situations and for long-term living, but we need respite homes now for those parents who are taking care of things full time and are never ever getting a break. So we're working on that right now. We've got this incredible board, and if anybody's listening and wants to be a part of this mission, please reach out to me. I'm Betsy at autismodyssey.org. On TikTok and Instagram, I am Betsy on the go, literally Betsy on the go. It was a name that I just made up a long time ago, and then I grew into the name,
I
which
love it.
really well. And then that's where you'll find me. The majority of my stuff is done on TikTok, and that's where most of my interactions are. And then my online course for picky eating is pickyeatingsolutions.com, pickyeatingsolutions.com. And so that's the way to find me there. And what a big part of what I do, it's kind of behind the scenes, and I'm sure Laura does this too, because I know her in her heart, is there's a lot of hopelessness and sadness going on out there. And if somebody contacts me and just needs to talk, I'm very, very happy to do so. I have to do so at specific times that work with Joey's schedule, but I know the pain that you all are going through out there for a lot of your listeners, and I'm really wanting to help where I can. And then if it's on this type of picky eating, I do offer one-on-one consults through my website if somebody wants to meet with me specifically and not listen to necessarily all the videos.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so, so much for all of that wonderful ways to get a hold of you. And I love how you said that you're just willing to be supportive, and the same with me. Please, no one ever be afraid to just reach out, send me a message at all the different places, because
right.
If there's one thing I want to do is be there for my community.
Yes.
We're both doing so much out in our communities. We love our communities. We've found the community when we felt like we were on an island. So I'm so happy for both of us that we've been able to, find those for each other and get the support from those certain people.
It's true. And they're out there, and sometimes they're not found because, I fall more under the category of ADHD. But if you're looking at autism in the form of a spectrum, a lot of us parents have similar issues as well to what our kids are going through, making it even harder to initiate these kind of social support systems.
Yeah.
So it's important that we listen to the podcast and support each other and offer the care and love that we do. And sometimes it's not about giving advice. Sometimes it's just about listening.
Oh,
and
I love that.
Just telling them it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. And if any of listeners want to know how to start out, how to start advocating, I can definitely share some ideas with you to start at your schools in your neighborhood, at your community centers, at your libraries. There's just simple ways at your churches that you can just start to show and grow your advocacy. So please reach out if anyone has any questions for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Sarah, thank you. You're a delight, and you're doing a great job with your show. You're a big part of the solution. So thank you so much.
And you as well. Oh, I'm just so proud to have got to know you more, and I can't wait to keep up and connect with you more in the future. So
Sarah and I'll send you I'm going backwards. Laura and I will send you a photo on Thursday.
I would love that.
Having lunch without children.
I would love that. Please do. Please do. I will be here with my child. Isn't that the truth? Huh? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Betsy.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Be in touch.